Last week, I shared back to school sleep tips. Getting settled into an ideal school rhythm often comes with shifting schedules and evening routines. When parents contact me about shifting their preschooler or early elementary age child's evening or bedtime routines, a common question is around best practices for cutting bedtime snacks or milk. In today's episode, I'm going to talk about bedtime snacks, how they often link into dinner behavior, and the best way to cut them with limited drama. Hi, I'm Allison Egidi, a pediatric sleep and wellness coach and a mom of two. I love to help parents find solutions. This is How Long Till Bedtime. It can be downright scary to change your child's behavior when we know it will come with a lot of pushback. It's particularly daunting when these changes need to happen close to bedtime because it can result in even more challenging bedtime routines or evening routines. The two areas that I find parents are most anxious about as it relates to evening routines are around cutting screen time or cutting snacks or milk between dinner and bedtime. Today, I'm going to help you cut those snacks. First, let's talk about the three main reasons I recommend cutting snacks and milk between dinner and bedtime for any kids over the age of 2. And then I'm going to share how to actually do this with little to no drama. No might be an exaggeration. Let's be real. Let's just talk about limited drama. I'm talking a handful of days and it will be over. The first reason I recommend cutting evening snacks and milk is the most obvious, and that's that milk and food after teeth brushing is terrible for our children's teeth. And a lot of kids are wanting the snack just before they go to bed. So at a minimum, once your child is over the age of 2 years old, and my guess is most dentists are going to tell you it's once they're over the age of 1, you definitely want to be brushing their teeth after any bedtime milk or snacks. But even if you're doing that, I still want you to consider removing the milk and snacks after dinner and before bedtime because of the next two reasons I'm going to mention. The second reason I don't recommend these bedtime snacks or milk for children over the age of 2 is because it often contributes to poor eating at dinner. When children know that there is a snack that's available to them after dinner, they are more likely to be picky and or distracted during dinner. And these snacks can fuel dinner resistance and increase bedtime stalling. And sometimes the snacks aren't as healthy as the things that we were offering at dinner, although sometimes they are. But they often slow the process down of moving our kids towards bedtime. The third reason, and this might be the biggest one in my book, is because milk and snacks before bedtime can cause a spike in blood sugar that can result in lower quality sleep. Generally speaking, I try my best to teach my children healthy sleep habits now in hopes, really in hopes, I know there's a lot out of my control, but in hopes that they will carry forward some of these healthy sleep habits as they grow up. Or at a minimum, come back to them after they get through the rebellious years. Experts are now recommending that adults don't eat for at least 3 hours before bedtime because it results in that blood sugar spike I mentioned, and that is significantly linked to poor sleep. I could tell you firsthand that there is a very noticeable difference in the quality of my sleep, both by how I generally feel and by my tracker, when I eat after 7 p.m. And I'm generally going to bed between 9:30 and 10. So I really need that 2.5 to 3 hours. Of course, most growing children do need to eat every 2 to 3 hours during the day, and I'm a supporter of early bedtimes, so 3 hours with no food isn't going to work for most preschool age and early elementary age children because I typically want them going to bed not too long after they're eating dinner. In fact, it's not uncommon that I have kids that I work with and my own kids leaving the dinner table to go right to starting their bedtime routine. That means that many kids may only have 30 minutes to, let's say, 2 hours between dinner and bedtime, but they are learning that after dinner, you don't need to eat until breakfast. And then this does give their body a little time to digest dinner before the lights are turned off. Most parents I work with are open to the idea of removing bedtime snacks or milk, and a lot of times it's something they've wanted to do. But they're very anxious about the change leading to additional bedtime resistance. Or they're also concerned about their child truly being hungry at bedtime or during the night because they don't eat dinner. I would encourage you to try my approach for 1 week. And I suspect that you'll be very pleasantly surprised with how quickly your child adjusts their behavior around dinner and around pushing you for that bedtime snack or milk. So, how do I suggest you do that? I recommend making a rule that once dinner is over, the kitchen is closed until breakfast. So, what does that look like in practice? First, you really want to plan ahead by telling your child every night at dinner that once dinner is over, the kitchen will be closed until breakfast. That means no more milk or snacks after dinner is over. I want you to state that very clearly. If your child is one to not eat well at dinner or to use dinner as a place to stall as far as having to move on to bedtime, I want you to use a timer to indicate when dinner will be over. A timer is a great way to set clear, consistent structure and boundaries around finishing up dinner and moving on to bedtime or whatever the next evening activity is. We used a timer at dinner for years with our kids. I recommend giving 5, 3, or 2-minute heads up when dinner's coming to an end. This is where you kind of need to know your child or what feels best to you. But that's usually the ideal amount of time: 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. So you can just set a timer on your phone, or you can use a visual timer for your child if you think that would be most helpful to them. I'll link to some of the visual timers I recommend in the show notes. For my kids, they did well with just the timer on the phone, but I certainly have kids who do better with the visual cue of when dinner's coming to an end. So you'll say, in 3 minutes, dinner is over, and then the kitchen will be closed until your light wakes up in the morning and it's breakfast time. I'm going to set the timer on my phone for 3 minutes, and when the timer goes off, dinner is over and it's time to go get ready for bed. Then, when that timer goes off, I want you to give your child a chance to transition to that next step in your evening. But if they aren't transitioning on their own, or suddenly they start telling you that they need to eat, they're so hungry, you're going to help them through the transition. What I don't want you to do is let them stall by suddenly trying to eat dinner, because I promise you that will quickly become your new routine. You tell them that dinner is over when the timer goes off, they don't eat, but then once the timer goes off, suddenly they're ready to eat dinner and they're stalling, and that boundary you set is lost. So here's some specific language you can use. Okay, the timer went off, dinner is over, it's time to head upstairs. Would you like to walk upstairs or would you like me to carry you? If your child is ignoring you, throwing a fit about wanting to eat more, or just generally not cooperating, you'll calmly say, I see you need some help, so I'm going to carry you so we can get to bed on time. And then you'll calmly carry your child upstairs, even if they're throwing a fit. Your calm energy is important here. Once that they learn that the timer is a non-negotiable, it will become an amazing tool. And if they are hungry and really want to eat dinner or need to eat dinner, they will. And if they're not hungry, they aren't going to eat dinner, and that's okay. And then you've gotten away from the dinner table. And if they ask for that snack that they typically get before bedtime, you're going to remind them that the kitchen is closed. You'll simply say, well, remember, the kitchen is closed until breakfast, so it's not time for a snack or time for that milk. The good news is that you can have a very big breakfast tomorrow morning. And then you'll forge ahead with your child's evening routine. Don't let a tantrum or a fit take you off course. Keep moving forward. Typically, it takes 3 to 5 nights for children to stop asking for a bedtime snack or for that milk. I will tell you that most often it doesn't take more than 3 nights if you truly stick to this plan and use this type of language. I would encourage you to try not to stress too much about your child eating dinner, because I know that's a real stressful point. It is our natural instinct as parents to worry about our children going to bed hungry. So I realize that's against our natural instincts. Your job is to decide what you're serving for dinner, and your child's job is to decide if they want to eat it. So I always recommend, because I've been coached through this, that you should offer at least one food item that you know your child generally likes. I know if we have really picky eaters, that can change from time to time, but at least one item that you feel confident if your child was hungry, they would eat it. And then let go of pressuring them to eat. Let them decide for themselves, but hold that boundary for ending dinner and not having food again until breakfast. My younger daughter, Ainsley, was an extremely picky eater. I talked about this in our picky eating episode. I'll link to that episode in the show notes. But while I'm happy to report that she'll literally try anything now at the age of 8, maybe not at dinner, but generally she'll try things, she went to bed without eating dinner several times a week during her preschool years. And the reality is, both of my kids will still occasionally go to bed without eating dinner. Sometimes I think they're just not hungry at dinner time, and that's okay. As we get older, the reality is dinner should be our smallest meal of the day. So I don't think we need to get into forcing our children to eat these big dinners, because I don't think they actually need it to sleep well. So occasionally my own kids will still skip dinner, but it happened a lot for Ainsley during the preschool years. And during that time with Ainsley, I had several conversations with a picky eating expert and with her pediatrician, who has an interest in nutrition and just was hugely helpful on this front. And both of them assured me that it was fine to let her go to bed without eating dinner if she was offered that one food that she would typically eat if she was hungry. And I can tell you that I committed to this process that I shared with you today, and it never once messed up her sleep, and it significantly improved her dinner eating habits. And I've supported many, many parents through this process, and they are as pleasantly surprised as I was. So I would love for you to give this method a shot, and then DM me on Instagram at Sleep and Wellness Coach and let me know how many nights it took for your child to stop asking for that snack or milk. And if you're looking for additional help around smoother evenings or ending bedtime resistance, middle of the night wakings, or early morning wakings, I encourage you to join me for my September coaching sessions for parents with 2.5 to 6-year-olds. Starting next Monday, August 29th, you can purchase my preschool sleep program called Your Preschool Sleep Champion, with the opportunity to join me for 6 support calls throughout September. To receive notification when enrollment opens next Monday, visit AllisonEgidi.com/preschool sleep coaching. Thanks for joining me this week. If you found this episode helpful, it would mean the world to me if you would take a minute to rate and review the podcast on Apple or Spotify. I'll see you back here next week. Bye for now. Thank you for listening to How Long Till Bedtime. To learn how we can work together to improve your child's sleep, please visit sleepandwellnesscoach.com.